Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Chats with Children. I hope you're safe and well. I'm delighted to be joined by Kath, Darlington and Louise Reid from the Scott Partnership to take part in my Reflections and Forecasts 21-22 interview series, where we look back at the past 12 months and also look ahead to what the year is going to bring us. So I'm delighted to be joined by Kath and Louise. So Kath, Louise, first of all, lovely to see you both. How are you?
Hi, Rizwan. Yeah, very well, thank you.
It's always difficult to ask that question to people because you never know who's going to answer, who's going to go answer. And I always get that deathly pause at the beginning. But
we're both talkers, and we're both pretty well. So.
Yes, Happy New Year, Rizwan. Lovely to see you again.
It's lovely to see you both anyway. And hopefully the sun is shining where you are up north today.
It's warm actually. It's cold outside, but warm inside.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how it's bright sunshine outside. I went outside, it's absolutely freezing.
Yes,
I thought I might cut the hedge down, but I thought it's too cold to go outside. So anyway, I'm inside in the warmth talking to you both. So look, before we start talking about the past 12 months and also look ahead to this year, would one of you be kind enough to give me a quick overview of the Scott Partnership?
I'll be very happy to, Rizwan. Thank you. Well, the Scott Partnership is a successful B2B marketing and PR company, and it supports global businesses working in life sciences. We were originally founded over 25 years ago, actually now, and we have a couple of sister companies within the group. One's called Kaplan Communications and one is called Phoenix Marcom. So there are 3 companies altogether. We're unusual in this market in that we are global and we have been from the get-go. So everything we do and everything that everybody thinks about is, from an international point of view. And we also have a team based in China, which provides localized services into that market as well. So we can help our clients with their local marketing into the People's Republic of China as well.
Brilliant. And also, just one question is, in terms of your customer client base, if you like, they cover all aspects of life science and pharma, don't they?
They do. Yeah. Louise, do you want to pick that up?
No, I was just going to say and beyond as well. So really, we're kind of technical B2B with an emphasis on science. So a lot of the clients that we work with, their technologies and services do happen to be relevant for life science, for pharma and biopharma, but also for other sciences and actually industrial applications as well.
Fantastic. Well, that's why you two are excellent to talk about trends and so on that you've seen the last year and coming year from your client's point of view. So look, one word then, I've asked everybody one word to describe the last year and why. So who'd like to start first on that one?
Louise.
Okay, so I'm going to say busy, and I'm aware that we're so fortunate, and a lot of people haven't maybe been as fortunate. So that's just important to note. But really, because of the sectors we're in, and particularly because a lot of our clients are servicing pharma and biopharma markets, we've just been busier than ever, really. So a lot of clients have been working on COVID-related projects. And others have been launching products and doing things in a different way, obviously, based on what's been happening. So they've asked us to help them where ordinarily they might go to a trade show, meet potential customers there. They want to do things differently. And we have got a very strong network in the market as well, and we get recommended. So we've got new clients coming to us as well. So it's we've been very, very fortunate.
Cool.
And busy. Very, very busy. Yes, well, I won't repeat Louise's word, which I think was spot on. No, I'm going to say over, because I think the one thing that we do, we're always working on deadlines and we're always looking forward. So 2021 is so last year is one.
Should we just jump straight to 2020 and start talking about that?
Go for it.
It's always nice to reflect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, looking back at last year, we will still talk about last year, is obviously last year was year 2 of the pandemic. I mean, year 1, obviously, a lot of companies, when they got hit by the pandemic, they had to change almost immediately how they worked and so on. Year 2 slightly different, obviously, because you've already got a lot of systems in place. But were there any other things that you then had to do because the pandemic continued into year 2? And, so how has it impacted the business in the second year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like everyone, we had to deal with managing a business, managing teams in a different way. So tests at various points during 2021. Everyone was remote, which we practiced, I guess, in 2020. But I think when you don't get much notice, like everyone, it can be a little bit more challenging. We had to deal with people having COVID and those kind of things. We actually started to go back to traveling, actually, so towards the end of 2021, before Omicron, when things sort of seemed to open up. So even starting to plan for that, and obviously all of the logistics that you're very familiar with. So I think from a management of people and business and clients perspective, we did our best. I'm sure we made mistakes, but I think, you know, our team really just worked so hard, adapted. Like you say, we've got the technology that we need. One thing that's very difficult, I think, is to recruit when people are remote and out and about. So that's something that we're now kind of ramping up on, actually. So so now that we've got more of a hybrid thing going, we can bring more people in. So I think, yeah, from a managing the business perspective, it was still challenging, but we were kind of used to it and had things in place. And yeah, the team's been fantastic.
Kath, have you got anything to add to that?
I was just going to say, I think from our point of view, when we do look retrospectively, I mean, 2021 was less of a shock. We're always, I think both Louise and I are optimists by nature. So we're always optimistic, and it didn't deliver what we hoped in terms of, you know, freedom and all of those things. But the business challenges were less surprising. You know, it wasn't like 2020 where everybody had to pivot all the time. 2021 was much more, well, we've been here, we know how to do it, onwards. So it was, I think everybody, our clients as well, there was more of a balance than in 2020. People had already adjusted to the change. So you look forwards and you take advantage of the opportunities ahead of you. And I think that's how we tackled that last year.
Well, one thing which comes to mind with you saying that, though, is that do you think that the pandemic has now made you look back at the business and reflect on how you do business and change certain things for the future now, so that, you know, whereas before, you know, if I look at another example, a lot of people went to shows every week. Yeah. They did lots of exhibitions. Now a lot of companies aren't doing so many, and they're being more selective, sometimes through no choice of their own because they can't get out there, but also because they're now making a deliberate decision not to do that. From your point of view, running a life science communications business, are there things now, because of the pandemic, moving forward, that you've got in place that you go, well, actually, we've changed the way we work now because the pandemic's made us realize we were wasting a lot of time doing that. We really need, this is a far better way of doing things.
Well, I mean, I think a good example is during the last 2 years, we've actually done for clients quite a few virtual product launches.
Right.
So historically, we would have generally recommended to do that around a trade show, to do it in person, for us to meet with the media, which of course is valuable, we love doing, is important. But I think from the results that we've shown, it is possible to do that virtually and to get, you know, really great coverage and things. So that's just one example of where, you know, we want to still go back to trade shows and meet people because we think that's so important, but maybe it's not the default position going forward.
What about you, Kath?
I think there's a couple of things, both picking up on points that Louise has made. Firstly, that whole recruitment challenge caused us, we did stop and say, do we have to change our business model? If you cannot bring people into the business and train them and have them in an environment where everybody's supportive and nurturing, it does make you consider how you can bring people into the business and on. And so we've considered that a lot, you know, whether we have a different model in terms of the type of resource that we use. And that one's still, I think, a work in progress. Secondly, travel. Louise mentioned that we did some travel in 2021 and we were all really excited about it, but it took so long to plan, and the, you know, testing and compliance and paperwork is so much more onerous than it used to be. And additional to that, being busy, being out of the office is a massive interruption to the day job. So that probably will change. I think realistically in 2022, we will do less than 50% of the travel. If it was a normal year, we'd do less than 50% of the travel. And we don't know whether it's going to be a normal year. I think, honestly, trade shows are not yet proven to have returned to what they were, and what we all miss, and we miss with our clients, is that face-to-face interaction. But I don't know that we'll return to that full-on model again.
Right. And I mean, as a live communications company, obviously, and working with clients, you just mentioned obviously virtual launches there, Louise. How have you seen the trends change in the last 2 years in terms of life science communication? Because, you know, obviously historically, like you said, you do a live events, and then you do launches at an exhibition, maybe PitCon or whatever it may be, and also you know, you use a lot of the trade press traditionally as well. Obviously, how you communicate to people, and also there's social media out there, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. How has communication changed in the last 2 years to the scientific community?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously digital was already massively taking over. So I think whilst in-person events were still important, there was a massive digital element to them anyway. So I think everyone was familiar with that and set up for it. I think the big shift that we've seen is clients, because they're not meeting people on their booth and taking business cards, they want leads, and they want, you know, qualified leads essentially. So how do they do that virtually and online? So that's we've done a lot of work with clients using tools like HubSpot, and obviously LinkedIn, and using kind of sponsored social media, and importantly still using the trade press, because I think a lot of those trade publications have really adapted their models as well. So they offer a lot more lead generation type activities. So that's been a really key shift.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of things here, Rizwan. Firstly, in our clients, there's been a huge sea change in how they approach field marketing. And so anything to do with field marketing has seen a change in investment. So we see clients looking for resources and tools to help their sales teams better, because they can't go out and generate those one-to-one relationships. So we've seen an uplift really in support for field marketing. Back to the old chestnut of trade shows, personally, I think there's been an ambivalence at best about some of the platform failings of hybrid events, you know, where participants don't get what they want. They're booted out of the platform. They don't know whether they're in the platform. You know, the whole thing has not been a great experience. So I think that there's still a way to go in how that whole model has developed. One of the things we've seen people spending a lot on in 2021 in particular is the brand, because, you know, when everybody's digital marketing, you have to differentiate a bit more. So investment in their brand and their product brand more so. And to that whole what's working, what's not, in 2020, there was a great big uplift in webinars, which I think has absolutely dropped off the table because they were oversold and people are, you know, just finding a bit of exhaustion. And what we're seeing in 2021 is a great big uplift, and into 2022 in podcasts. So people owning their own channels, managing their communications in-house a bit more. So, you know, maybe that shift from third party to owned is a bit more prevalent.
Right, cool. Right, let's talk about some of your achievements, and also some of your clients' achievements maybe this year as well. So what have been some of the key things which just stood out for you from what you've done as a business in the last 12 months?
I feel like I'm going first a lot, but if you don't mind. Well, we celebrated 25 years in business.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Well, Kath set up the business 25 years ago. And I personally, I think it's a real achievement, you know, in today, to have that heritage. And I think a lot of, you know, our reputation in the market, the clients that we have on our roster comes from those 25 years. And also I think that's really helped us through the pandemic, because we offer that stability to clients, but also to staff. So I know there are lots of newer agencies popping up all over the place and growing quite quickly. And I think, you know, we've sort of been around, and it's a great achievement. And the fact that we're still independently owned, I think, is really important to us and to clients. And then from a client perspective, just going back to lead generation, for quite a few clients, we've really got some amazing leads for them through some of the activity that we've done. And I think that's so nice for our teams and for them to see, based on our content or our recommendations or our programs, that they're getting really good contacts, maybe in the top 50 pharma companies, that are then turning into meetings or even orders. And it's a really clear way of showing, obviously, return on investment. So that's something that I think has been a real success.
Right, Kath?
And I think one thing that we have seen in this whole change is, you know, obviously we use Teams all the time and Zoom all the time, and we're not doing face-to-face meetings so much, but our teams have developed really close relationships with clients in this way of working. Actually, it is much more daily engagement and conversations all the time. So the team's been fantastic, and they've been super busy, but really good fun, and they've all enjoyed how they've developed their clients as well. So I think that's been a massive achievement for us, or we're proud of them anyway.
I'm glad to hear it. So looking back on the last 12 months, though, from a sort of industry perspective, what development stories and trends have really stood out for you in the last 12 months?
Well, I think for me, last year, obviously, with the vaccine rollout, the emphasis on BioPharma, and the fact that 2 of those vaccines were based on RNA technology, made it more mainstream, more in the spotlight. You know, lots of our clients are involved in research around RNA and BioPharma more broadly. And I think that it was already, you know, massive, but it's really kind of exploded. So that was a big one. And then from a client perspective, we've seen a big increase in kind of data science platforms and solutions. So I think with, you know, the types of technologies that are used in drug development, generating so much data, there are now these really innovative companies that are coming out with solutions that can kind of manage and structure that data to help people to take drugs to market faster. So we've got a few clients in that area, and it's something that I think is a really hot topic as well.
Cool. Kath?
Well, I'm going to sort of go outside the industry and outside us a tiny bit. I think the rippling political situations have really stood out for me over 2021, both at home and abroad. And one of the things that actually does impact our business is the ripples of the EU battles with big tech, which impacts how platforms can operate. And we saw that from a data standpoint with LinkedIn introducing in December a withdrawal of their ad services, many of their ad services into the EU because of the data protection. So it's estimated that 33% of all current ad spend is digital and online. So these types of limitations have some impact, and certainly will going forward.
Right. Well, one thing I was going to ask you as well, though, because as you mentioned, you have offices in China. How has the last 12 months been in terms of impacting sort of communicating in China?
Well, I mean, really, China has had a very different pandemic than the rest of us, which I guess means the simple answer is business as usual in China. What they have struggled with, like us, is an expectation of trade shows, which in China, I don't know if you've been to any, are enormous, you know, right, just huge, with hundreds of thousands of people attending. So people really invest a lot in trade shows and what they do around trade shows in terms of marketing. But there has been more of that pulling of dates and pulling of events and moving from one city to another. And so that's been very disruptive. But on the whole, I would say business as usual in China, enormous increase, of course, all the time in WeChat, which is the main social media channel used by businesses in China. So, all businesses invest in WeChat support. So it's a growing area anyway.
Right. Well, that's great for 2021. So let's look ahead to 2022, which is what you really wanted to talk about, Kath. So let's look ahead to 2022. So what are your predictions then for pharma and biopharma in 2022? What do you think we can expect to see in the next 12 months? Or 11 months, actually, we're nearly finished the first month already. So.
In general, I'd say we think there's going to be less research focus on COVID. Perhaps a continued focus on long COVID, but maybe less on on the initial disease that we've seen in the last couple of years, and therefore a bit more of a return to some of the disease areas that might have been neglected, a little bit like oncology. So I think that's probably going to be a big shift. And like I said earlier, a bigger focus on biopharma with companies trying to get products to market based on the successes with the RNA vaccines. In terms of drug development, I think companies are looking for more new technologies that can help them to speed up that process. And as I mentioned before, I think data science is just so important that a lot of people at every stage of that process are going to be hiring data scientists. So I think that's a skill which is going to be flooding into the market, hopefully.
Right. What about you, Kath?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Louise there on the digital ecosystem, which is a huge focus in pharma and biopharma, underpinned really by two different areas, AI and analytics, and data privacy and security, which I guess harks back to that whole EU conversation. IDC, which is the analyst company, they estimate that by 2026, 2/3 of life science companies will adopt the intelligent lab of the future, leveraging digital transformation. I mean, 2/3 is a big percentage. So that's all going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years, which is a big trend, as Louise said. The other thing, and this is just generally back in the market we work in, Instrument Business Outlook is it's a monthly publication that covers the analytical industry, and every January they present a forecast for the year. So they've just published their 2022 forecast, which is powered by their sister company Strategic Directions, SDI, and they say that they expect the analytical industry, instrumentation industry, which is where the majority of our work is, will see revenues exceed $79 billion in 2022. And that's an uplift of 4.4%. So, last year was a bigger growth, and 2024, they're seeing it almost a bit back to normal. But that's big numbers again, $79 billion, which translates into a large opportunity for our clients and for our own business. So, it's looking positive, we hope.
Excellent. So let's talk about marketing communications then, specifically for 2022. So you talked about how people have moved away from webinars and gone more towards podcasts, and also moved away from live event launches to obviously virtual launches. So what do you see as the trends being for 2022 in terms of communication to the life science and pharma sector?
So, I mean, I think we've talked quite a bit about trade shows, and I think our view is that the key shows in each kind of market or segment or niche will survive, and they will take on more of a hybrid model and become more established in that way. And I think it's probably the smaller conferences and more niche shows that actually, I think, what might struggle to ever return to kind of pre-pandemic levels. So I think there'll be a drop off, and what this market was traditionally quite focused. A lot of our clients would really hone in on, that's our trade show, that's the focus of our calendar actually is this trade show, and this is where we're going to do this and this and this. So I think a lot of companies are basically now able to own their own timelines more, which is actually quite nice, really. So I mentioned product launches. Most of our clients are launching a product or a service or an add-on at least once a year, if not more often. And I think being able to control that a bit more. But then when you do obviously communicate that, you've got to do a really integrated program and use lots of different channels to try and make the same kind of noise that you would have got from a trade show. And again, digital is really key to that.
Kath?
And I think that whole move to digital. Our business, when we set it up 25 years ago, was in content, but it was content for print publications. And that whole storytelling element of digital is really important. So we see a continued demand and a growth in demand, because to stand out, companies need to fuel their own channels. So we see that across the board, in whether it's in China or in the rest of the world. And as Louise said, that whole ownership of your own marketing means that there's been a big move, or there is being a big move towards more integration rather than ad hoc programs. So you're not just doing something as a one-off, you're thinking about how it has multiple touch points. And of course, one of the other things that people are really thinking about, because they can't plan customer touch points, is really looking at the customer journey. So how are we going to interact with the customer? Where's that going to happen? It's a much more workflow approach to reaching customers.
Brilliant. All right. And what can we expect to see from the Scott partnership in 2022?
So I'm going to say more of the same, and in a positive way, because, really we've got a good model. We know that it works well. Our clients stay with us, recommend us, come back to us. So the kind of fundamentals of what we do, we think we do well. However, we are still kind of small and agile enough to bring new ideas and different ways of doing things to clients, which is, of course, something that will continue. And I think I mentioned earlier, we're recruiting as well. So we're hoping to bring in some new expertise in different areas. So it's more of the same with a little bit of new, basically.
All right. Well, I think, Kath, anything to add to that, as Louise covered it all?
Well, I was going to just add that I mentioned that most of our clients are in analytical instrumentation, but we have seen our mix of clients shift. So we're working a lot more in clinical, in IVD, in different therapy areas. So, we're actually being able to bring the services that we have offered to one traditional audience into wider markets. Our services really have historically centered around that PR, content storytelling, technical content, customer voice, and marcoms and digital. And, really, we're just going a bit wider.
Right. So finally, last thoughts. What last words would you like to leave the viewers for 2022? Who wants to start on that?
Go ahead, Kath. I've been hugging the limelight.
Okay, well, Rizwan, Louise started by saying we're really fortunate, and we've been honestly counting our blessings these last few years. We're really fortunate to work in the sector we do. We're not scientists. And I remember when I first set up the company, somebody very wise saying to me, it's a lovely market. Scientists are such lovely people. And I echo that. We've had such a great experience working in this market. So we work with really lovely companies, really great clients. We've got fabulous partners. So we believe really that there's a yearning across the industry to redress this balance to a bit more human interaction, facilitated by technology. So less travel for travel's sake, and more valuable interactions if we can get them.
Cool. And Louise?
Yeah, well, I think Kath mentioned that we're both optimists, and I think we see, as I think hopefully most people do, that there seems to be an end in sight with the pandemic, at least with it dominating our lives. We kind of feel that that's not going to happen. However, I like to look at the legacies, the positive legacies. And I know it's been horrendous for so many people in so many ways, but the kind of emphasis more on hybrid working, the emphasis that people feel in their lives about work-life balance and achieving that are all important legacies. And then the face-to-face contacts. I went down to see a client in November time to do some media training, and that was the kind of thing I did day in, day out, years prior to the pandemic. And it just really makes you appreciate people and your relationships and those opportunities as well. So I would say we've got lots to be optimistic about.
Fantastic. Nice way to finish. Well, look, Kath, Louise, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me today. I wish you a fantastic 2022.
No, thanks, Rizwan.
Same to you. So there you go, viewers. Hopefully you found that interesting and useful. Now, if you've got any questions for Kath and Louise about what they thought about the trends, particularly about any thoughts about communicating to the life science sector, then feel free to put any comments below the video or get in touch with us. One thing I forgot to add actually, or ask, is if people want to know more, where can they get more information?
So either of us on LinkedIn, Rizwan will tag us in, or go to our website, which is scottpr.com.
Fantastic. And so there you go. So if you want to know more, tag Louise or Kath on LinkedIn, message them directly, or go to the website. The link will be above the video. And that's what I say. So once again, Kath, Louise, thank you very much. Have a fantastic 22. I look forward to hopefully catching you up in person at some event or another, maybe in the not too distant future. I know it won't be PitCon, that's gone virtual, I think. Well, I don't know whether it's gone virtual or not. It's just definitely not happening live.
Yeah,
it has gone virtual now.
Well,
I
I
wasn't
think
sure, but it definitely is not happening live. I know that. But hopefully we'll catch up in person soon. But
lovely
there you go.
to speak with you.
It's lovely to see you both anyway. And good luck.
Thanks, Rizwan.
Thanks, Rizwan. Bye-bye.
Bye. And thank you, viewers, for watching. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye. And that, ladies, is a wrap. So that's not hard for one taking